Thank you for joining for this webinar hosted by Verifavia together with Oceanscore. It's a pleasure meeting you today. We will dedicate the next half hour to demystification of ETS and how to facilitate compliance. We'll present you the solutions that have been implemented by Verifavia and the solution implemented by Oceanscore and how they are connected in order to make it easy, make it simple to comply with the ETS from reporting aspects until compliance. We have people from all over the world to this webinar. So again, thank you for being there, and it's nice to meet you. We'll first say a few words about Verifavia, and then we'll let Albert Grell from Oceanscore to say a bit about his company, and then we'll dive into the challenges that have been put forward with the inclusion of shipping emissions under ETS. Shubham will then give a demo of the Verifavia dashboard for smooth verification of data, and Albert will then demonstrate his system for the allowance part. We will stick to the 30 minutes plan for the presentations and demos, and we'll dedicate some time after the 30 minutes for question and answers. In case you have specific questions, so don't hesitate to ask your questions via the chat during the webinar, and we'll pick up the key ones afterwards. Once again, it's a pleasure being with you today, and thank you, Albert, for also your presence. And I'll start with a description of Verifavia. So. My name is Nicolas Duchesne. For people who may not know me, I'm president of Verifavia since 2023, following the acquisition of the company by Normec. We have been working in carbon verification, decarbonization for many years, initially for aviation sector and in shipping since the beginning of MRV. We have more than 2,000 vessels in our portfolio of services, and we have developed a unique team of experts to deal with verifications under MRV, ETS, and also under IHM regulations. We have been also developing our dashboards, which aim to connect your systems with our system to make the verification more continuous and more smooth than what it was in the past. And we have been recently accredited by the Smart Freight Center, who is recognized for their knowledge in logistic greenhouse gas topics. We have accreditation from UCAS and COFRAC as well as SAC in Singapore, so we have everything you need for UK MRV, EU MRV, EU ETS, or UK ETS, which will come in the near future. We have also been developing services associated to sustainability, in particular low carbon fuels, carbon neutral claims, environmental KPI, and we are more than happy to continue to adapt our portfolio of audits and assurance services to whatever becomes required by the sector. I will not go into more details when it comes to material and testing and emission performances. I guess most of you are already familiar with it. If you want to have further information, feel free to contact me or Shubham or ask in the chat. And I'll give the floor to Albert after showing you quickly the common client that we have with Oceanscore. We are working with large and medium and small shipping companies for many years, and this partnership is helping in providing a one-stop shop when it comes to your ETS compliance. Over to you, Albert, for a quick overview of Oceanscore.
Thank you, Nicolas, and thank you, Verifavia, for having me today. Great pleasure to meet all of you. Just a few words on Oceanscore, what you need to know about the company. We have been around since 2020, so about 3.5 years now, supporting shipping in efficient compliance with regulation. The focus very much in the last 12 months has been on efficiently complying with EU ETS, where we've built the by now industry-leading solution, and we'll show you later what we are doing there. And you're all aware that FuelEU is coming your way, coming our way too. We are prepared for it. We are working with first clients to help them get ready for this complex regulation. Who are we? We are a team of roughly 25 industry veterans currently based in Hamburg. That's our head office, with significant teams in Poland and in Portugal, and soon to come in Singapore. You might want to switch to the next slide. Right. So now the question is, aren't you competing with Verifavia? Why are you actually having a joint webinar? And the slide, we've pulled that together to show that we are actually not competing, that we are collaborating, and that we believe that through such a collaboration, 1 and 1 equals 3 rather than 1.5. Let me quickly take you through the concept of our collaboration, and we'll show that later with real data. But what you know and what you're getting through Verifavia is verified event and voyage data. You're getting total emissions, you're getting EUA needs. So basically, for a voyage, for a period, you're getting the data you need from Verifavia. Now, what do we as Oceanscore do? How do we add value to this data? In our solution, we are reading the charter parties and the EU ETS relevant aspects and clauses in that. And if we then combine the charter parties with the vessel operational data and the verified data coming from Verifavia, bringing this together in one solution allows us to allocate EUAs either to the charterer for periods the vessel is chartered out, or to the owner if the vessel is unemployed or if there is an off-hire or something like that. So we, by combining these two data streams, know who has to pay for the EUAs, and then our solution automatically generates EUA invoices to the charterers with the right amount and the right detail, including the Verifavia verified EUA statements. Our solution then allows you to manage disputes and to manage the EUAs receivable. And I'm saying EUAs, which is the carbon credits. It could be cash as well if you've agreed on cash. So we're running the whole invoicing and cash settlement process all the way down to managing the union registry accounts. And for those EUAs where you don't get EUAs, but you get cash, or where the owner has to buy EUAs, our solution has a buying solution as well. So in short, our solution wouldn't work with partners like Verifavia providing verified voyage statements. And at the same time, we believe that we're adding a lot of commercial value by building these processes based on the Verifavia data. A quick look into our customer portfolio. Again, I'm not going to spend much time on name dropping here, but what we should be saying is we're serving small customers down to 1 or 2 or 3 vessels, all the way up to industry giants like MSC. We just got a confirmation this morning that V Group is going to work with us now. So we're actually spanning the whole range of large to small. We're spanning the whole range of container, bulk carriers, special vessels, multi-purpose vehicles, etc. So all segments are covered by us as well. I think that should be it for talking about Oceanscore so far.
Thank you very much for the very clear and useful presentation. Before moving to the demo of the various systems, we would like to insist on the key challenges that are being faced by ship operators when it comes to confusion about scopes. So you are used to MRV for a long time, and now you have to get used to ETS, and the two go together, but the scope is not completely the same. In particular, when MRV is about providing an exhaustive picture of the emissions and other parameters associated to your ships and the EU voyage of your ships, being to from between EU voyages. However, ETS is about the emissions which you have to compensate for, which you have to buy an allowance. And it's not the same scope, which is good for you because MRV is exhaustive and ETS is less exhaustive. So you will have to pay less allowances than the number of tons reported under MRV. So ETS is like a step in between, in which you have to apply various rules which will reduce the emissions reported under ETS. An obvious example of such difference in scope is the application of allowance only to 50% of emissions for voyages from outside EU to EU. Of course, a voyage within EU will be 100% under MRV and ETS, but voyages to EU or from EU, only 50% of emissions have to be compensated for. And this is what is reflected by the 50% factor for the year 2024. This rule will remain in place for the future. So it will be always 50% of voyages to from EU that have to be compensated. What will change though is the phase-in, and because of the phase-in, which gradually increase between 2024 to 2026, when it becomes 100%, the same voyage with 1,000 tons emitted will result in different allowances required. For 2024, it would be 200 allowances. For 2025, it would be 350. And for 2026, it will be 500. In 2026, there will be 100% of emissions to compensate for. 100% of the ETS emissions, meaning for a voyage from outside EU to EU port, it will be 50% of the total. There are also other considerations, and for example, there is an exemption, I should say, of purchase of allowances for voyages between one member state to an outermost region of the same member state. So in this case, for voyages from French port to French Guiana, for example, there will be no compensation in any year. And there are also various complexity because of what is the definition of port of calls and so on, and it's not very different from MRV, so I'll pass on that quite quickly. The definition of port of call is really critical aspect because it's what defines a voyage, and it has to be well taken into account in the reporting system, which is what we ensure during the verification with the Verifavia dashboard. So bunkering activity are not for port of call, but this is the same as MRV in the past. And if you go to outermost regions of Europe, be very careful with the reporting. That's the key message. There are also some specific considerations for container ports nearby Europe, in particular port of Tanger and Port Said, so in Egypt and in Morocco, have been identified as creating a risk of evasion of this regulation. And so if you operate container vessels and if they stop in those ports, then this stop do not count as a port of call. So a voyage from Marseille to Miami, passing by Tanger, you have to report and to compensate from Marseille to Miami, and not only from Marseille to Tanger. And our systems are helping to avoid falling into these traps. And this is what my colleague Shubham will demonstrate you in a minute. We see the dashboard as a way to collect information from you, be it via API if you have automated system, or be it with standardized format if used on board, so that the same data verified can be used to submit to the authority and to manage EUAs with a direct link from the Verifavia dashboard to the Oceanscore EUA management platform. And I'll let it to you, Shubham, to take over and take us through demonstration of the dashboard.
Thank you, Mr. Dushi and Mr. Grill for the introduction, and welcome to all the participants. I hope that you are getting some insights from the demystifying facts that Mr. Dushin has explained in the past few minutes. Now, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show that how the Verifavia dashboard works, and from there, how the data goes into Oceanscore's platform and how we are providing an end-to-end solution together to the shipping industry, taking off the load from the performance team, which they are worrying about getting the correct emissions calculated, uh, correct port of call in their IT systems, and so on and so forth. So allow me to share my screen. Mm, Can can I get a confirmation? All right. So
Yes, all good.
thank you, sir. So this is the landing page of our dashboard. So it's a comprehensive dashboard which covers all sorts of verification, let it be EU ETS, let it be CII, and let it be annual verification. So I'll stick to the EU ETS part. So once you click on this button, this tab will get open. So the first tab under EU ETS module of our dashboard is the fleet tab. So basically what it does, it gives you a compiled information of the EU MRV related data of your ships. So for example, in 2022, based on the verified EU data, there were 4 ships. This was the total distance, speed, transport work, and all the necessary MRV report parameters you can see over here. Then similarly in 2024, though the data will be verified next year, but since we are continuously verifying the data, so as soon as the data comes in, the data gets verified, these numbers gets updated. How the continuous verification is taking place, I'll take you through it as well. In the meantime, anybody has any question related to the concept of the dashboard, please feel free to comment on the chat. So this is the landing page of the fleet tab. So it covers the EU MRV annual parameters of your fleet, and there are some graphs as well, which, for example, breakdown of total CO2 emissions based upon the CO2 category between, from, to, at. Then the total CO2 emissions based upon the EU pertaining to EU MRV data. Then the total CO2 emissions based on the fuel type. At the end, if you want to check and calculate preemptively that what would be the EUA price that you have to invest to buy the allowances in the next year, so you can enter the figure over here and this price will change. Then once you click on the tab ships, it gives you a vessel level information. So based upon the verified data of 2024, you can see that these are the numbers. If you go to any particular vessel, so hold on. If you go to any particular vessel, you will see the EU MRV verified number for 22, 23, and 24. Again, for this ship, the total CO2 emissions breakdown, the total CO2 emissions as per the fuel type under EU MRV that you will be able to see over here. And of course, you can download this report if you want to share it with other stakeholders as well. Now, all the data is available in the tabular format as well. So if at all you want to do your own analysis, you can download this report from here. You can select or unselect any column, any particular column or field from here, and the screen will customize its view. So this module was showing the compiled information of the EU ETS or EU MRV data. Now coming to the part where we are verifying your data continuously. So as mentioned before by Mr. Dushe, that this dashboard has the ability to get connected to any IT system using an API. An API can be a Voyage API for EU MRV data, or a daily data API, which contains all the events. So the process, how it goes is that once the API connection is done, the automatic fetching of the data takes place, and this is how your data looks like on our dashboard. Now it has all the parameters included in it, including biofuel, all the corrections pertaining to CII, everything is there. So you can see all the information in the daily data. Now what happens is that once the data gets in using the automatic fetching, there are 2 levels of checks in it. So the first level of check is done by our dashboard itself. It has been customized with many formulas, many empirical as well as IQRs. So we try to make sure that all the events, all the fields, all the parameters are covered in our analysis. And once this data is being fetched, the first level of check is done by the uh, dashboard itself. So you can see that for this data type, we have received two comments from the dashboard. First one is this, where this fuel consumption is reported at 0. Second one is the plausibility of fuel consumption per distance is not falling under the scope. So now the second level of check is done by an auditor. So Verifavia is a team of marine engineers and naval arcs who are continuously working on the data verification of your data. So what happens is the auditor in charge of your data will get in touch with the PIC of your company on a continuous basis, will report the issues to them, getting it corrected, as well as whatever the documents are required for verifying the EU ETS voyages and generate EU ETS voyage statements. Everything is working on the continuous basis, not once in a year, not once in 2 months or in a quarter. Everything is happening continuously. The frequency of the data fetching can be decided. Let it be daily, let it be weekly, let it be monthly, 15 days. However, it is decided between the company and Verifavia. So once the data is corrected, we again refetch the data and we make sure that the issues are corrected from what has been reported earlier. This is how we verify the data continuously, and then there are some graphs to it. So this is the first graph, which is the CII rating graph. So this is the current CII, this is year till date CII, then the average speed, the total CO2 emissions, how many entries are correct, how many entries are incorrect. Then these are outlier checks. Basically, these helps us in identifying the outliers, basically the plausibility errors. So in case there is a typo or if there is a bad weather day, good weather day, whatever is not falling into the range of normal data, it will be highlighted by the system and we will get it cleared by communicating with the PIC of a company. Now, once this data is corrected, we know that yes, all the entries are done. So what we do is, so this tab, once you click on this analysis tab, it shows you the voyages of each vessel. So for example, we have this test 5 vessel. It has 2 voyages till now, 2 voyages as per EU MRV till now, for which the operator needed a statement. So what we did is we collected everything, we verified everything, and if there are any issues, you will see this button as a yellow button. It means that once you click on it, you will not get a download report. You will not get an option to download the data because there might be an issue or any document pending for the complete verification of this voyage. But this voyage is green. It means that it has all the, we have collected all the necessary information. We have got everything, and you can download the statement from here. So once this statement is downloaded, it means that the data gets logged. No more changes in the data can be allowed because this statement has been issued. And we cannot keep allowing the data to change again and again because then there is no point in verifying the EU MRV data or EU ETS Voyage Verified data. Because this statement is to be passed on to charters and the settlement has to be done. Now, if there are any errors in the events or you want to see how the calculation, how the verification is being done, so you just have to click on the Get Events option and you will see all the events associated with any particular voyage. If there are any errors spotted, it will be reflected over here. So this was all about how we are doing the verification. And once this statement is issued, the data gets transferred to Oceanscore via an API. And I believe that now Mr. Grell will give presentation of their platform. And that is all from our side. If you have any questions, please feel free to let us know. Thank you for your attention.
And thank you, Shubham, for this introduction of your platform. Let me seamlessly try to start from where you ended. I'm sharing my screen. It should be visible now. Shubham, can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, good. All right, fantastic. So now, basically, as I said earlier, assume that everything Shubham just told you, the ETS relevant voyage information for periods and voyages is transferred via API from Verifavia into our Oceanscore ETS manager. And then we run the processes in the ETS manager that I described earlier. And I'll only show you a few highlights. As obviously, as in all of these IT solutions, it's a trillion options what to do and what not to do, but I'll just take you through the main process of it. What you see in the starting screen is that currently we have here 4 vessels reporting. They would need year to date 1,805 EUAs, and 130 EUAs have already made it to our account. That's just giving you an overview. So in the center of the screen, you always see the main action, and you manage and navigate through the tabs here at the right. What you see too, important for a manager perspective, you have an overview over the key owners that you are serving, how many EUAs need to be bought for these owners, because, for example, you had off-hires or periods of unemployment, and you see how many open positions you have versus different charterers. What we have too is we have a direct link to the exchange where you buy EUAs, carbon credits. And just to give you an indication of the volatility in this market and why it's so important to not wait until March 25 to resolve this, just in the last 12 months, we saw peak prices of above 90 euros per carbon credit. We saw them drop down to below 50, and we now see them back up in the range of 70 euros. So the changes in the price, the volatility is really high, and that's why it's important to get your hands around it soon and make sure that you get the EUAs that you need in time into your account. But as I said, this is only the intro slide. The slide that best explains what we're doing together with Verifavia is this slide. It lists the 4 vessels that we currently have set up in this demo account. It lists the owners and the charterers. But here at the right, these traffic lights show the whole data flow, and they are our call to action if things go wrong. It follows the process of the data. So the first question is the vessel actually reporting? So we're tracking the API. Are we getting the information we need in time and with the content that we've agreed? Shubham mentioned issues where a verification is being withheld or put on pause because data are missing. These are situations when things pop up red because there is an information gap and we're waiting for it to happen. But if things are green, we know all the data in the system that the system needs. The next 2 traffic light columns take care of the charter party information. Obviously, to be able to allocate EUAs to the charterer or to the owner, we need to know when the vessel was chartered to whom. And we don't only need to know the charter parties with their laycan windows and redelivery windows, we actually need to know the exact dates. That's why we have a charter party column, and then we have a SOF column for on-hire and redelivery SOFs. If this is all green, we know that all the information we need to actually build the invoices for EUAs is available. And this is then the 4th column, the 4th traffic light column. The system automatically generates these EUA requests. I think you typically would call them invoices, but they are automatically generated. But they're waiting in the system for you to send them out to your customers, to the charters. I'll show you how that works in a minute. And we do it. We send them out manually simply because certain things like off-hire are typically not reported via Verifavia. So they need to be added manually. And that's why we have this manual step. We automatically prepare the invoices, but you send them out by pressing a button and adding comments, etc. And then this is more towards the accounting team. You've sent out the invoice that's probably gone out through chartering or the commercial departments. And then accounting checks the accounts, the union registry accounts, or the bank accounts if the money has made it to the account. So that is the data flow. The beauty is you can click on any of these traffic lights and they take you exactly to where the problem is. So let's say for Earth, she has a red button on EUA request. This means that there's EUA requests waiting that are prepared by the system for you to send out. So I'll click on it. And here you see 3 EUA requests for Earth to MSC for different periods this year to date, from January through April, are still waiting to be sent with these EUAs in them. There's obviously more, but that is then for other vessels. The way it typically works, these are the invoices to be sent. When they have been sent, they automatically go into the bucket to be closed. And that is the bucket for the accountants to make sure when the money is made that they actually close this transaction, and then they automatically move to close. So you always have a full transparency over every transaction that is required in the ETS regime. You find a 4th button here in the middle, to be reviewed. This is shipping, things go wrong. So there's disputes with the charterer, there's data missing, there's something you want to change. These EUA requests or invoices go into the to be reviewed bucket, and that's where they're stored until that's resolved, and then they travel to the right. So how does an invoice look like? And I'll do this very quickly. It basically has a unified or unique identifier number, so you actually later know who these or for what requests the EUAs are sent to your account. It has information on the voyage and on the emissions, very similar to what Shubham showed you. It's identical with what's coming from Verifavia. It has information on the EUAs computed through that system. It has certain email addresses. It allows you to attach files. It even allows you to consider prepayments if you have made them. You can take off-hires. So everything that you could theoretically think of, what would happen to such an invoice in real terms, that is what we can reflect in the system. To show you, for example, there's voyage statements attached to these invoices. I'm just clicking on it here to show you, besides the request button, how these voyage statements look like. And it's typically port legs, and it shows where you're sailing or anchored or moored. It shows you what the status is versus into the EU, in the EU, outside of the EU. So all the information you need to convince the charterer to pay is here. You would typically attach these to the EUA invoice. And let's assume in this case, to save the time, we have no off-hires that you could add. Then we just confirm, and it's set, right? And then this EUA request for Earth, the invoice moves from to be requested to be closed. And now let's assume we're 2 weeks later. Our accountants are taking a look at the bank accounts. They see this EUA invoice in the system. It's the same that we sent out earlier. They say, yep, the EUAs are there. They confirm, and the thing is moved, the request is moved through the total system. That's a very simple process. What we do, we provide a lot of monitoring options, more for the financial side. What I showed earlier is more the operational and data flow side. This is the financial side, which breaks down the EUAs needed for the fleet by owner or by charterer, or it breaks them down what's on account, what's still open, and then gives details. And then there's tables to detail this even more by owner, by charterer, by vessel, by voyage, to provide you all the detail that you need to be fully transparent. That's the process. So we have a data flow coming from Verifavia, adding the charter parties, and then going through the system until the EUAs have reached the EUA Union Registry account. And we have a lot of transparency solutions there as well. Just one last thing. As I said earlier, you won't always just move EUAs. Some charterers will not be able to provide you EUAs. They will be working with cash instead. They will be invoiced in euros or dollars. The system allows for the invoicing in dollars, and often the same happens with owners. There's an off-hire and you need to cover 5 EUAs for that off-hire. They will just send you money, and then EUAs have to be bought. And our system, in collaboration with RWE, Europe's biggest over-the-counter trader for EUAs, has a baked-in trading solution where you can basically, very simply, just by clicking buttons, buy EUAs either per vessel, to be precise and have a track of the accounting processes, or to a corporate account to later allocate them in the system. You can buy odd volumes, which means you could just buy 5 that you need for an off-hire. You can buy forwards, anything you can think of. You can actually sell EUAs. And if you decide to go this way, you don't have to go through RWE, but you can go through RWE in our buying solution. They will send you a quote. You accept the quote or you don't. If you accept it, you get the EUAs into your account and you pay 7 days later. That's pretty much it. There's a trillion other options and side routes in the system for all kinds of cases, but I think for the time being, this should be it today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Albert and Shubham, for the good insights. I hope it was useful and interesting for the audience. It's a new game that comes with the ETS being included in shipping, and everybody has to adapt. And we strongly encourage you to start now, look into the solution you need now, because this reporting period 2024, you are already subject to these purchase of allowances. There are also some other requirements coming. We'll just make a quick mention of FuelEU Maritime. I'm not sure if you are aware or not, but it's in the same domain, and it's another requirement. And of course, various systems will be adapted also to compliance with FuelEU. But let's not spend too much time on this. We are already a bit over schedule, but I think it was useful to have extensive overview of the various demos. And I see there have been some questions in the chat and in the Q&A area of this webinar. Most of the questions have been answered. Maybe I can address one when it comes to bunkering. So, yeah, so bunkering, a stop in a port for bunkering, it does not qualify as a port of call. So in terms of EU MRV and EU ETS, it's like if the vessel did not stop in a port. So it does not count as the origin or arrival of a voyage. However, the emissions emitted during the bunkering, they still have to be reported. You don't get to deduct from your report the emissions that were emitted during the bunkering process. It's just that the stop in the bunkering port is not considered a port of call. It's been always like that for MRV. The ETS is of course also creating new requirements and to, as we have said, to clearly understand which actor of a given voyage is going to be responsible for the emissions. And so we encourage you to clearly define that if you have not done it already, and deal with the appropriate actions, be it on the TETIS MRV platform, or be it on the creation of registry accounts that you will need to surrender the emissions to the authority by September next year at the latest. Again, we strongly encourage you to not wait, to dive into this topic now, to create your MOA if the authority to which you depend has started the process, to, of course, update your monitoring plan for ETS if you have missed the deadline, to avoid surprises as much as possible. I see there is another question on port of call. So, like emergency stops are not considered port of call either. You have the option to report under MRV, but under ETS it will have to be compensated. For the recording, I'm actually not sure whether we'll post it or not, but if we have a possibility, we will probably maybe put it on social media or something. We'll see. We are now 10 minutes past schedule, but It has been a useful webinar. I hope it was a pleasure to present you the Verifavia dashboard, to give you an overview of the Oceanscore EUA management platform as well. We remain available. If you have any question or comment, feel free to contact Shubham or to contact myself or to contact Albert. We are here to smooth compliance as much as possible, and we'll be always happy to explain the requirements and to align our assurance solution to make sure that you are fully conform with your obligations. Thank you very much again for your time. I wish you a very good rest of day, and we'll be in touch to share the materials and outcome from this webinar. Have a good rest of day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.